18 years. That's how long I've been waiting for Titan Quest II. And now that it's finally here, was it worth it? Well, slight spoilers, but yeah, it's pretty good. Hey folks, I'm Ash, and I am excited to show you what makes Titan Quest II good, what still needs a bit of polish, and yeah, also where the game falls flat on its face. Let's start with the most important question. Does it feel good to clobber enemies? And the answer is, yeah, attacks have a good bit of weight to them, making each hit satisfying, and most of the special effects are flashy without being an eyesore. Combat is also noticeably slower than in most ARPGs, even once your build comes online, which I must admit I actually found to be quite refreshing. That said, you can still build with speed in mind and hop around like a rabbit with a fresh pair of batteries, but it's never going to be quite as frantic as Diablo 4 or Path of Exile. I found spells to be especially fun to use. My favorite ended up being ice shards tweaked so that they fly out in random directions before slowly starting to orbit me like a deadly halo, just begging for some stupid fishman to wander in and get turned into sushi. Basic attacks though, those could use some work. The swings sometimes feel a bit floaty, and staves in particular have this very stiff, very awkward animation that makes them a lot less fun than they should be. Which really is a shame because Titan Quest II has this very cool feature where some abilities change their animation based on the weapon you're using. And let's be honest, casting through a staff is badass. While I would love to keep praising the game, and I will get back to that in a moment, there is one burly bugbear that constantly kept trampling over my fun, and that is the performance. The game is about as stable as a drunkard in an earthquake during a tornado. I'd be cruising at 144 FPS 1 second, then crash all the way down to 20 FPS the next. And the more enemies there were on the screen, the more likely this was to happen. I tried everything to fix the problem, even dropping all of my settings to low, but it didn't help. The frame rate continued to swing wildly between silky smooth and slideshow. It is worth mentioning that my PC isn't top of the line anymore, but I am able to run every other ARPG out there without breaking a sweat. Titan Quest II looks great, but it isn't that graphically demanding, so this is purely an optimization issue. And one I really hope gets patched quickly because it is a serious blemish on an otherwise remarkably fun game. Since I already brought up the visuals, let me just say that Titan Quest II is gorgeous. In terms of raw graphical fidelity, it cannot really compare with most AAA games, but that hardly matters when its world is so full of little details that you can instantly tell that someone on the dev team truly cared. I especially love how grounded and immersive it feels. It actually takes itself seriously, and in an era full of self-referential wink-wink nudge-nudge style of humor, I respect the hell out of that. The same goes for the story. Even though it is a bit cliché as it's all about a chosen one, a prophecy, and ridiculously incompetent gods, the characters go all out and do their best to really sell the stakes. Because of this, there's a real sense of urgency, and so I found myself getting unexpectedly invested. So much so that I was honestly annoyed when the first chapter ended on a cliffhanger. I really wanted more. And then there's the voice acting, which ranges from good to great across the board. Even some of the silliest side quests, like the one where you help a lost jar back to its podium, have a surprising amount of weight and gravitas purely thanks to the delivery. So hats off to the voice actors, they have done wonderful work.
Let me out of this jar so I can rip your throat out! Please? Hermes! Hermes!
Given that it's been nearly 20 years since the original Titan Quest arrived, it should come as little surprise to hear that Titan Quest II's design has been modernized. For example, you can no longer carry around an entire pantry's worth of potions. Instead, you only get 2 healing potions that recharge by smacking enemies, and 1 energy potion that regenerates over time. There is also a newfangled dodge button that lets you zoom around at high speeds as well as avoid deadly attacks. Unsurprisingly, this has been accompanied by an increase in enemy complexity. Not only is there a bunch of different enemy types to contend with, but the tougher variants also have highly damaging abilities you'll need to avoid or cancel to stay alive. Don't worry, however, this doesn't turn the game into a bullet hell, as only 1 or 2 enemies per pack have special abilities, and even those are very clearly telegraphed. As for the bosses, well, I hate to rely on this comparison because it is ridiculously overused, but it does get the point across quite well. The bosses are kinda like the Dark Souls ones. They're less about standing still and trading blows, and more about dodging high damage attacks and then striking back when they leave themselves open. It is a very big shift from the original Titan Quest, but aside from performance issues making certain fights, well, messy, I really like the change. It makes the battles feel tense and memorable, especially if you crank up the difficulty and have to actually learn the fight or get your face used as a mop. Speaking of difficulty, I found Titan Quest 2 to be decently challenging. Enough that it managed to kill me a couple of times, but not enough that I felt like I was slamming my head against the wall in the hope it cracks before I do. And if you have masochistic tendencies, you can also increase the difficulty quite considerably by visiting the shrine, and this can be done very early in the game. So despite only just launching, I think the game has struck a very nice balance between casual and hardcore play. Circling back to the previous topic, some design elements have wisely remained untouched by time. The map is not randomized, it is handcrafted. There is all sorts of neat places to explore and plunder, including secrets that can give you everything from piles of loot to permanent buffs. So while this does mean the replay value is lower, I must admit I love having a preset world, as it makes those first few playthroughs a lot more exciting. As for the loot itself, it is a bit too early to judge, but I think it has a lot of potential. There is a ton of different stats to play around with, and those can appear on all sorts of different gear, from caster staves to melee bonk sticks, so crafting unique builds should be a lot of fun. That is something for the future, however, as right now we only have access to what is essentially the early game, and so all of the build options are fairly subdued. On the same note, I cannot really talk about the endgame or even multiplayer, as both are still unfinished. What I can say is that there are plans for, and I quote, dynamic and repeatable experiences in the endgame, which, if I were to hazard a guess, would probably mean something like Path of Exile's maps. But right now, all of that is just speculation. As for multiplayer, it is currently in a work-in-progress state and thus not yet ready for the spotlight. One of the most pleasant surprises for me was just how easy it is to create fun builds. On my first run, I decided to challenge both myself and the game by going for a Mage Knight build, a combination that in most games tends to be doomed from the start, as the two options have no real synergy in gear and stats. But you know what? Titan Quest 2 actually makes it work, and quite well at that. That is largely because each of the 4 main attributes, Vigor, Agility, Might, and Knowledge, also boost the related secondary stats. For example, putting points into Might or Knowledge will also increase Resolve, a stat that governs fire and cold damage. Because of this, a tanky mage build is actually perfectly viable, since you are never truly wasting points. On top of attributes, you'll also get skill points to put into active and passive abilities. And this is where Titan Quest 2 really won me over. Each skill has a bunch of modifiers you can unlock by investing points, and these can significantly change how the skill behaves, similar to how gems work in Path of Exile. The best bit is, you don't even need to max out the skills in order for them to be useful. All it takes is a couple of points to unlock key modifiers and you can completely reshape your playstyle. And if you feel like you've gone down the wrong path, or if you just want to play something different, you can respec your entire build at any time. It is a quick and painless process. Just press a couple of buttons and suddenly you've gone from being a sword and board fighter to a lightning mage. The only real drawback with the current system is the limited number of individual skills, presumably due to the game still being in early access. What we have is genuinely good, but I would like to see a few more variants since right now every Frost build is going to be using some form of ice shards, since really they're the only early game option. Last but not least, let's talk about those ever-present questions in modern gaming. What is the monetization like? How expensive are the skins? And is the battle pass worth your time? And you know what? I am delighted to say that there is none of that. And I don't even mean none yet because it's early access. The Grimlore Games team has explicitly stated that the only monetization the game will have is expansions or DLC further down the line. And honestly, I could not possibly be happier about this. So, what is the verdict? Titan Quest II undertook the daunting task of updating and modernizing an ancient classic, and yet, despite the odds, it has actually pulled it off. Even in this very early state, it is already a great ARPG and a worthy successor to the original. There is a ton of potential here, and honestly, I am excited to see just how far it'll go once it's truly finished. So, would I recommend it? Absolutely, but with a caveat. Right now, the performance is still a bit rough, and I cannot promise you a smooth ride if you jump in today. So unless you're really eager to go in, I would suggest holding off until the next big patch or two for the best possible experience. Either way, enjoy. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments. And if you want more stuff like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe, ring the stupid bell, pet your favorite Spartan, and do whatever other nonsense you gotta do these days. Thank you for sticking to the very end, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye bye!